able to get game 1. But game 2, there's a Jason play on at Reid's side. Things may be tough for Finchler.
Yeah, Finchler's life total also very low right now, so the Dark Confidant could be lethal. He can't get much value out of the Sylvan Library. This feels like we're going to be moving to a even series here momentarily.
Yeah, Sylvan Library triggers in the draw step, so you can't use Library to quote-unquote set up Dark Confidant triggers to have himself just draw lands. He has to just not die to the Dark Confidant. Shuffled his deck. Deathrite will put him to 1. It doesn't look like he has a Punishing Fire going on either. But that's what he's going to have to find. And he's going to have to kill Vendilion Click and then later think of a way to take care of Jace. And then not die to Dark Confidant. So a lot of ifs here. You see Maelstrom Pulse at Vendilion Click and Deathrite for the turn. Of note, Reid is only on 4 lands right now, so
this game,
things aren't going perfectly.
The game appears to have been going on for a very long time. You can look at his graveyard. There's a Caracas. Maybe got hit with a Wasteland earlier.
Yeah, Reid's going to go ahead and top in response here. So Reid he's trying to hold on to this lead. Jace goes down to 2. He has Finchler to 1, but his deck's not particularly good at sneaking across the last point of damage. Reid does not play any creatures in his main, and he plays 2 clicks in the board. So there aren't many sources other than there's 1 click remaining and 2 entreats, and that's outside of that, like, Finchler's Dark Confidant may just be the best thing he can do.
And I'm really amused here by Reid going for the Fate Seal against the opponent with a lethal Dark Confidant.
Yeah, well, he does have Deathrite, so he's going to have to be, if it's a 3-point spell, that'll take care of Finchler. But Finchler can start gaining 2. Or maybe he's going to Swords the Deathrite Shaman. Did he leave? Is there a 2-drop on top of Finchler's deck? If so, it's going to kill him. And we'll see upkeep. It's Sylvan Library, so there you go.
and Finchler, I believe, knew that ahead of time because he reset those cards with the Sylvan Library. So Reid Duke ties it up.
Game apiece here for Duke and Finchler. And this is quite an interesting matchup. Both decks, both players getting a pretty good chuckle out of how that one ended. I mean, Reid really does not have many ways to deal 1 point of damage. He's got to get Finchler to do it for him.
The rarely seen miracles burn out.
Right. I mean, even some Miracles decks, like some of them play Snapcaster Mages or Vencers or something like that. Reid just has none.
Yeah, there are no creatures in the main deck. Some in the sideboard. He's got 2 clicks and a Baneslayer Angel, but this main deck is about as clean as it gets.
All right, so game 1, the decks are mostly doing their straightforward strategy, right? Punishing Jun is trying to grind you out with value creatures and Punishing Fires and Grove of the Burn Willows. Miracles trying to establish counterbalance in Divining Top or make Angels. But post-board, there's a lot more going on here. We saw Reid attacking with Vendilion Clicks. Let's look at some of the other weapons the players have available to them.
I think Reid wants to de-emphasize counterbalance in this matchup. Alex has a spread of casting costs in his deck. He can get out in front of the game early. He can use Abrupt Decay to get rid of it at a moment's notice. So I think Reid wants to become much more of a board control deck post-board. You saw the 2 copies of Vendilion Click. I think the additional sweepers have come in as well. I would guess the blue Elemental Blast has come in. It wouldn't surprise me if the Baneslayer Angel has been sided in. I saw a Blood Moon in Reid's hand, so he's gone down that road as well. I think he's just much more interested in trying to control the board as much as possible, fix his draws with Sensei's Divine Top, and eventually take over the game with either Jace or entreat the Angels. I don't think the counterbalance plan makes much sense in this matchup.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's on these hateful enchantments plan. You know, Blood Moon seems pretty good against Punishing Fire. Rest in Peace is actually very good against the Jund deck. Jund plays Tarmogoyf, it plays Punishing Fire, and as we'll see in a second here, he's got some more graveyard interaction out of the sideboard.
Yeah, Deathrite Shaman as well. A lot of incentive. So Alex's side here is Scavenger's Engineer Plague, an Ancient Grudge, 2 Golgari Charms, a Crozan Grip, 2 red Elemental Blast, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Umazawa's Jitte, 2 Duress, 1 Life from the Loam. I like the 2 Duresses in this matchup quite a bit. I think the Crozan Grip and the 2 copies of Golgari Charm, even if counterbalance isn't even in the deck anymore, as you alluded to, there's a lot of enchantments that Reid's potentially bringing in, Blood Moon and Rest in Peace. Crozan Grip also can allow Alex to kill a Sensei's Divining Top, which is really nice. I don't know if a loam strategy makes a lot of sense here. Reid
Well,
is splashing red. He's more non-basic heavy than most lists, but it will be hard to. I think it is hard to wasteland lock his list. And if you think that Reid's going to be bringing in Rest in Peace, then loam is not really something you want.
Yeah, well, loam will be interesting. So you're right that he can't waste. Normally, you bring in loam against decks where you want to wasteland them out of the game. It still can search Alex really well to the Punishing Fire Grove of the Burnwills interaction, and it'll mill the Punishing Fires and let him loam back the groves. So if he thinks that that interaction is something that's pretty key to the matchup, loam might still be a fine inclusion. He does have some cards in the main that are just okay. He plays some lightning bolts, for example, but
it's hard to make room. I mean, the
Yeah,
problem is
actually,
the Jund list has all the cards are just sort of, yeah, this is good, yeah, this is good, yeah, this is good. It's hard to find room for a lot of things. And I think the Duresses, the Red Blasts, and the Enchantment removal have to come in. That's already 7 cards I'm talking about here.
yeah. If you're looking at punishing Jund in this matchup, they have a ton of discard. So I feel like public enemy number 1 for the Jund deck has got to be Sensei's Divining Top. It's Reid's best answer to discard is to simply let his hand get discarded and then top deck what he needs every turn.
Furthermore, the game's going to go on for a long time. I mean, the Punishing Jund deck has some aggressive elements to it, but it's not really that fast. So Divining Top will do a lot of damage in a long game.
Yeah. On top of that, I think the discard works really well with Dark Confidant in this matchup. It's kind of like what you see in Standard, where a mono black player will Thoughtseize his opponent twice and then play an Underworld Connections, except, in Legacy you get a much more powerful effect when you get Dark Confidant.
It has kind of that Thoughtseize pack rat element to it. You take their one answer to your creature, and then you run away with the game with your 1 threat.
Right. But a lot of discard here. Post-board, you'd think Finchler could be on up to 9 discard spells, 2 Duress, 4 Thoughtseize, and 3 Hymn to Turok.
I would want it all, I think, against Reid.
Just annihilate his hand.
It seems like the best thing to be doing, especially since Reid is not most likely going to be on a counterbalance plan. So if Reid can't lock him out of the game, that's the one risk with the discard spells, is he establishes top plus counterbalance, and now all your Duresses and Thoughtseizes and probably your Hymns you can't cast. But if you think Reid's getting away from that stuff anyway, then all your discard spells are going to be excellent.
And we'll see Finchler's on 6 cards right now. See whether he wants to keep it. Reid kept to 7. And we are going to be underway. Finchler starts out on Verdant Catacombs. I would expect the first few turns of this matchup to just be players making land drops, maybe making discard spells on Finchler's side or divining tops on Reid's, but that's about it.
Well, Alex is just going to have to cast the creatures he finds here.
Yeah. Scalding Tarn from Reid. Alex does have a turn 2 Dark Confidant. I would have to think the chances of that guy ever drawing a card for him on this board are pretty small.
Well, what are Reid's answers? There's 4 copies of Source of Plowshares.
Yep, 4 copies of Swords to Plowshares.
3 copies of Terminus if it's on top of the deck right now, or Reid could brainstorm it on top.
He could Force of Will it, but I would be surprised if Force of Will is still in his deck, actually. It's a pretty fair matchup, and I'm not sure you want a 2-for-1 yourself.
Especially against a deck that's already packing Hymns and all these discard spells.
You only have so many cards to get rid of. So this actually may be kind of safe. Fincher's going to test the waters a bit with Tarmogoyf, however. Right now, a 1-2 just lands in the yard. Well, it looks like he doesn't have a black mana for Dark Confidant. He fetched Taiga that turn.
Yeah, he has Red Elemental Blast, Taiga, and Dark Confidant. So if that was his only land, he gets to choose between basically what set of cards does he want to cast. Decides to go with Tarmogoyf plus Red Blast.
You see, actually, despite being down a card, a lot of card advantage in Finchler's hand. He does have a Bloodbraid Elf in hand. Elf certainly one of the better card advantage. Like, there certainly is time in this matchup for him just to gain extra cards off Cascade. Some matchups, Bloodbraid Elf as a 4-drop really doesn't have time to gain the advantage he wants.
I believe Reid is trying to communicate about who is responsible for maintaining the Tarmogoyf die.
Yeah. Basically how it works is that Finchler moves it, and if it's wrong, we don't move it.
Yeah.
The judge will not touch the die. Reid is under no obligation if he sees the die is wrong. He does not have to correct it until the combat happens. Say Tarmogoyf is Reid, until he acknowledges damage being dealt, he does not have to do anything.
It is a bank error in Reid's favor.
That does not mean if the Goyf is a 2-3 in attacks, Reid cannot say, I'll take 1.
Right.
He has to say, I'll take 2, and then Finchler can be like, oh, and then move the die. Second Tarmogoyf for Finchler, no third land. Can Reid sweep these up? They're not much of a threat right now to him, though, to be totally honest.
This is the risk here. With that Dark Confidant, Reid's under pressure to answer it immediately. These Tarmogoyfs, Reid can take a lot of time getting his board set up or his hand set up.
Until the Goyfs are big, Reid really doesn't care. I mean, he cares a little, right? Finchler's gonna have to put a second type of permanent in the graveyard for Reid to start doing anything.
Correct.
And a draw of Deathrite Shaman will not do that right here. I mean, you think Finchler's gonna have to play Deathrite, but then there's this huge worry that Reid just simply brainstorms, puts a Terminus on top, and wrecks you.
This is the squeeze that Alex is in right now, is he has to do something because his clock currently isn't sufficient, but almost all of the somethings that he can do lead to his board getting swept away by a pretty realistic sequence of plays from Reid.
Yeah. Yeah. Other updates. This is on the Delver mirror. Devin O'Donnell and Will Cruz. The winner of this is going to go on to play Tom Ross. Devin O'Donnell and Bug Delver now up 2-1 on William Cruz. He needs just one more win to make it to the top 4.
Although having the boss waiting for you is not that much of a reward.
No, not ideal.
I'd rather win than lose, but it's close.
That's a pretty interesting matchup, actually. The Delver versus Infect matchup. It seems like there's a lot of play.
I think Tom, that's an
Tom likes this one.
I think that's an Inkmoth Nexus match.
Abrupt Decay has some trouble killing Inkmoth.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex declined to cast the Deathrite Shaman that turn, not wanting to expose himself to a Wrath too much. Reid is going to go ahead and crack a bunch of fetches for all basics, and I think we're going to see just a Mind Sculptor come out.
Yeah, that's a totally fine board for that.
Alex jokingly tries to waste one of these basics.
Maybe a little risky for Reid to cast a Jace here, just because, Red Blast, Bolt, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. This, on the other hand...
Oh, wow. This isn't a Jace. This is Blood Moon with blue up when you cast it.
This, on the other hand, is not that risky.
This is really... Reid fetches on a board of 4 basics, makes a Blood Moon. And I don't... Boy, this is a tough spot for Alex.
Yeah.
Well, he can still cast the Red Blast.
That's, that's a start.
All right, Tarmogoyfs, they swing. Remember, Reid took 3 off his own fetches. Reid's helping the cause. He's down to 12.
Reid also has Rest in Peace in hand for
well,
starting to assemble kind of the full lock here.
Like I was saying, these hate enchantments are pretty good and could be his game plan, and they certainly are going to be his game plan. Now the Tarmogoyfs are reduced to 0-1s. And Finchler, gonna go throw the die off the screen. Yeah. It's like, I don't even know if there's a 0-1 setting on this thing.
Looks like Alex has ripped a forest, and that's a huge deal.
Yeah, he gets to play again. And he'll cast Sylvan Library. Reid will have none of Alex drawing out of this. Goes for Counterspell, but Alex Red Blasts.
He's got a little something. That's a little something.
I like swinging just one Tarmogoyf. You have to leave the other one back to block.
Yeah. But you also want to let Reid know that you're not messing around.
Yeah. Tarmogoyf's got a job to do, man, and that job is turning sideways.
Yeah.
All right, back over to Reid. He has his pair of enchantments are making life really difficult for Finchler. Finchler has no clock at the moment. His biggest threat is that Sylvan Library and the potential to maybe draw into additional threats.
Well, Alex has 1 basic swamp in his list and an Abrupt Decay in his hand. If he's able to find the swamp, he can really start playing again.
Yeah, but because of the Blood Moon, he has no way to find the swamp other than to just draw it.
Correct, yeah. He has to literally draw it.
And Jace the Mind Sculptor is the play for Reid. A lot of stuff is going to have to go Alex's way. First of all, there's a 1-of in his deck that he has to draw to. With another land, Alex can cast a Bloodbraid Elf, so he has some plays, but Jace plus the Sensei's Divining Top don't give him very much time.
And Reid did find Entreat inside of his cards there, so he can set that up as soon as this coming turn.
Yeah, he actually doesn't have a second white. His own Blood Moon is hurting him a little bit right now. But if you're Reid Duke and you have a Jace and a Divining Top, what's the rush?
Yeah.
Counter Spell as a card is really just almost as good as anything else you could draw. And Alex, off of Sylvan Library, will get a red Elemental Blast. It'll take care of the Mind Sculptor. Continues, the beats keep coming. Reid takes another 0. You see Terminus floated on top of the deck for Reid. No need for that, really. He already has these creatures preemptively killed. Now Reid's just going to keep digging. So he drew 1 card. There's a new card on the bottom. And the Swords to Plowshares. Looks like he's going to shuffle that one up to the top. And this is that spot where Miracles, you feel like they've won, but they haven't won. And then you get to wait and watch them win.
You still got to keep playing.
You got to keep playing because it's not 100% ever. Like putting odds in this, you put Reid at 90 plus, but it's not 100. So if you're Alex, you don't concede here.
Definitely, if he can find a swamp. Now he also has the mana, maybe next turn to cast Bloodbraid Elf. Bloodbraid Elf can allow him to cascade into Abrupt Decay. There are ways for him to break out of this.
Right. Deathrite Shaman is remember, he's just a squire on the board right now. The graveyards are still gone, but it is a creature with power greater than 0, so it's something. Reid just passing back. Finchler should be able to find a land here with the Sylvan Library going.
Another card that Alex can cascade into off of Bloodbraid Elf here is Lilianna the Veil. That could allow him to go after Reid's hand, maybe get to an ultimate, start splitting those enchantments against lands.
Yeah, remember, because he's putting cards back with this Sylvan Library, and one of the cards he's putting back is a Lilianna. He actually gets to control what he cascades into, and it looks like he drew an extra card there, paying 4 life. Both players at 11.
Alex defiantly shipping his Deathrite Shaman in.
And he's still got some game. All right, Bloodbraid Elf is going to be cast. It's going to cascade. Hey, that's the post-combat Bloodbraid Elf.
A little curious.
That guy has haste. Okay, well, it's possible he missed 3 points there. But Bloodbraid Elf, and this is like such a peculiar card to me in Legacy, because most cards that cost 4 mana in Legacy just are almost synonymous with winning the game. Think about things that people play that cost 4. It's like 4 or greater, right? It's things like Jace, Dream Halls, Sneak Attack, like these huge things that just win. But Bloodbraid Elf's, he's a 3/2.
Well, it does often win the game when it's being backed up by removal spells and good creatures.
Yeah. It's interesting. It really stretches the definition of win the game. And I agree with you, too, because it's very good. So Lilianna is going to work. He's going to plus it. Reid discards. And is Alex going to break out of this, you think?
It's looking good. There's still, if Reid is able to find a white source of mana for this Entreat, things shift around pretty significantly. But there aren't that many planes in the list, just 3. And all the other routes are now cut off by the Blood Moon that Reid has in play.
Yeah, Reid's going to probably have to Terminus on this board, I would think. Taking 4 turn is probably something he can't abide. And the Blood Moon doing a little bit of work on Reid, too. Remember that the strength of Divining Top and Miracles comes from the number of fetch lands and shuffle effects they play, and Reid has turned off all his own fetch lands here. So his ability to find what he needs has certainly been hurt.
Yeah, you see now there's a Tundra inside of the top 3 there. That provides no help for this Entreat.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a basic plains. Reid plays 3 total basic plains, but Reid just has to find it. It's not like he can fetch for it. There's only, in the same way that Finchler has 1 basic swamp and he just has to draw it, Reid just has to draw one of his 2 basic plains.
Right. Although he has more looks at it.
He has more looks, but it's not that many more looks even. He gets to look 3 deeper, but that's about it because he's not ever shuffling his deck. So the first time he activates the top, that's looking 3 cards deeper. That's a big net advantage. But after that, he's really only looking at 1 new card per turn, so he's kind of doing the same thing that Finchler is doing. All right, well, we have another result for you here. This is going to be the winner of this. This is going to be the other semifinal between Chi-Hoi Yim's Miracles deck and Peter Ingram, who was playing Bug Delver. Peter Ingram was our 1 undefeated Legacy player, and that's going to continue into the top 4. After losing game 1 to Chi-Hoi Yim, Peter rattled off 3 consecutive victories, and he is now in your top 4 and will await the winner of this match between Duke and Finchler.
And Finchler putting a lot of pressure on Reid here with this Bloodbraid Elf. Gets to reset a Lilianna, gets to plus again.
And this time they all swing in. This is for 7, and Reid did have the Terminus waiting.
So this, of course, is good for Reid, but there's still a lot going on Alex's side of the table that's problematic.
Yeah. How do you feel about committing a second Bloodbraid Elf there? Reid kind of was already on Miracle or Bust territory, or Terminus or Bust, right? It's aggressive, and if Reid doesn't have the Terminus, it just hits him really hard.
I think that I would have erred on the side of holding the Bloodbraid back, but with the Lilianna floating on the top there, it's pretty tempting.
Yeah, getting that second Lilianna, I do agree, is very nice for him. Reid draws the top that he used to Miracle, and he passes back. So both players kind of stuck in this prison-style board state. You know, both of them with pretty bad mana. Finchler's is worse. It's one green and it's a bunch of mountains. Reid has some blue into white and a bunch of mountains, but both of them looking 3 cards deeper all the time, but no shuffles for either of them. So it's really just a top deck war. But I think I'd say advantage Finchler. He has the Planeswalker, right?
Yeah, and he's getting to the point soon where he's going to be able to. Wow, another Bloodbraid.
Bloodbraid Elf number 3, yeah. Lilianna number 3. The good news for Reid is if the board state does break, there aren't many Liliannas left in Finchler's deck, or Bloodbraid Elves. And he's going to go ahead and swords the Bloodbraid.
Yeah, that's Reid's last card. This is in response to the Lilianna plussing.
Gotcha. So Reid is out of cards, playing off the top of his deck. All right, so let's talk about Lilianna management here. It looks like Lilianna's going to be around for a while. Finchler can build it up to 6, forcing Reid to play off the top of his deck, but he's probably going to do that anyway because he's playing with Divining Tops, right? Reid won't actually draw a card he needs. He's just going to keep it on top until he can do something with it. When you get to 6 with Lilianna, you can alt it, but you may want to wait until 7 so you can keep plussing it afterward.
Yeah, it depends on how the game's going and how threatening Alex perceives Reid's, top of deck and what he's setting up to be. Because once he gets to 6, he does have the opportunity to just say, all right, I'll split lands and spells, or I'll split spells plus maybe your most innocent land, maybe your mountain against your other lands.
I guess that's the question. What's the split? What's the split he's building toward? There are some problematic permanents in play. Blood Moon's hurting Reid almost as much as it's hurting Alex right now.
But it's not clear if Alex knows that. All the damage that's being dealt right now is invisible to Alex. He may assume that there's something going on with Reid's tops here. Maybe there's Entreat, maybe there's Council's Judgment, maybe there's a Baneslayer Angel. There's definitely cards that could be there, but yeah. Alex can't be 100% sure that this Blood Moon is affecting Reid at all.
When my Miracles opponent, and here be my Reid, and see if Alex sees it the same way. If my Miracles opponent has 7 lands in play, 2 uncracked fetches and 2 divining tops, I kind of want there to be a Blood Moon on the board, even if it's hurting me, because as soon as you get that Blood Moon off, he's gonna find everything. Like, angels are gonna happen real quick. Both players just looking at the top 3 and path trading turns back and forth. But Rest in Peace would be something I'd be really happy to get off the board if I was Finchler.
Although that's only because that's a long-term consideration. In the short term, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, you still can't cast anything. You can cast Bloodbraid Elf, and he, I believe, has cast all his Bloodbraid Elves. Yeah, he only plays 3. So he can cast Well, if he gets the Rest in Peace off the board, that lets him draw things like Deathrite Shaman to make that'll turn on his Deathrite Shamans to make correct colors of mana.
Right.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, hold on that. With Blood Moon in play, it's really hard to get a land in the graveyard for Deathrite Shaman. So maybe Deathrite doesn't make mana, even if you blow up the Rest in Peace. Blood Moon changes things.
So to the larger point, it is definitely the case that this Lilianna split hypothetically is complicated, and it's not clear what Alex even values the most highly at this point. He's just plusing Lilianna again. I mean, he's at the minimum wants to keep a Lilianna as leftover here. Yeah. Not in a rush to pull the trigger.
The ultimate is strong, but it's probably not worth losing the Lilianna because it doesn't win him the game. It just inconveniences Reid a lot. Reid discards a copy of Counterspell. Interesting that Reid drew Counterspell for that turn, as opposed to drawing something, that's his lowest impact card.
Yeah. Well, the rest of the stuff he's trying to float, I mean, there's an Entreat he could take, but I think that's his long-term plan here is to find that third plains, or the Blood Moon gets blown up, and then Entreats his win condition. It's the hardest card in the list for Alex to handle. So
the big read, if you're Alex, right, would be that when you split the piles, you want to aggressively split which pile Basic Plains is in. I would think that.
Well, it depends.
Right?
It depends what you're doing with the Blood Moon. That's the
big
variable. Right,
depends what you're doing with Blood Moon.
Because if you let Reid keep a couple fetch lands and get the Blood Moon off the table, now it may not even matter.
Yeah, I think so. The pile, you have to put a bunch of lands with the Blood Moon. Because if you let Reid get rid of Blood Moon and keep a bunch of lands, you're in trouble.
Yes.
So put Blood Moon with a bunch of lands. Maybe enough lands that he has to take that pile, and then put Rest in Peace and the Basic Plains in the other pile, so that he will get rid of Rest in Peace and he will get rid of his own Basic Plains, because those are two pretty big prizes.
Right.
Right. Say if Alex split Rest in Peace, Basic Plains on one side, and like Blood Moon and all the other lands on the other side. I mean, Reid has to take these lands, right? He can't afford to eat 6 Stone Rains.
There's also the question of what will happen with these Divining Tops in the split too.
Yeah, Reid actually has to. It's fun. He has to sacrifice all the Divining Tops before the trigger resolves, because once Alex starts splitting the piles, there's no more tapping tops to draw a card. All right. One other update for you. Devin O'Donnell and Bug Delver defeats William Cruz 3-1. So Devin will move on to the top 4, where he will face off against current reigning Invitational champion Tom Ross. That'll be a Bug Delver versus Infect matchup, which we will have next round.
And it looks like Alex is making his move here with this Lilianna split. And if he's putting the tops with the Blood Moon, at this point, it's questionable how much Reid even values the tops, because, as you mentioned, they're not really facilitating anything at this point. He's just looking at a fresh card every turn. The Entreat's already floating.
Yeah, I thought Reid might have drawn one top, popped one of them so he'd have at least one. And I like what he's doing here. He's putting a lot of lands with Blood Moon, and he's putting the Plains with Rest in Peace. Really smart split here for Finchler.
Yeah, it's a solid split. It gives him maximum insurance against Entreat the Angels.
If Reid wants to get the Blood Moon off the table, it's going to cost him all his deck manipulation, all his tops and fetch lands. So, because that's what taking away Blood Moon does. That enables Reid to search his deck. So no matter which pile Reid picks, he loses the ability to search his deck. And by putting all the basics with Rest in Peace, Reid's both these piles are really gross for him, right?
Yep.
So either he can keep some basics, he can keep 3 lands and a Rest in Peace, which is pretty bad, or he can keep a giant stack of mountains and get rid of 3 basics. And he doesn't play, I only plays like 10 basics, so he probably, I think he sacrifices the pile with all his lands.
I think Alex might have been able to squeeze him a little bit further. He may have been able to put the basic mountain in the pile with the Rest in Peace and the 3 lands, and Reid would have still selected that pile. It's a small thing. On a macro level, Alex's split made a lot of logical sense. I think he may have been able to squeeze one more land out of Reid.
But a great Lilianna nonetheless. And he got a pretty big prize there. His Deathrites are turned on. His Tarmogoyfs are turned on. Reid has no mana to speak of, and Reid still can't crack fetch lands. He's still more or less like brainstorm locked, you could put it, because he has no shuffles.
Now that was a huge draw there for Reid having a basic island, because otherwise this Lilianna is going to run away with this game, maybe go ultimate a second time.
Alex is going to draw Thoughtseize for the turn and discard it. And Jace is in the top cards for Reid. He does not have a second blue yet. Not sure if he wants to draw Jace. And there's just a second island in the top basic island. I mean, he does play 6 basic islands, so this is not unreasonable. But to get 2 basic islands right away for Reid was a big prize, and probably puts him in the lead again.
Because he has all these tops in play, he can do this all right now.
Yes. He's cashing a bunch of tops and recovering from all mountains immediately. Reid Duke gets Jace the Mind Sculptor 2 turns later, and he's going to go straight for the Fate Sealing of himself.
Fate Sealing in this spot is about as good as drawing the cards, because Reid knows there's not a lot to be done with them. And it does put pressure on Alex to find something, because this Jace will take over the game before Lilianna can.
Well, Reid doesn't even need to find and treat the Angels. He can just win this game with Jace if he wants. Alex still can't cast Maelstrom Pulse, which is his way to answer Jace. He still has to find that 1-of basic Swamp if he wants to cast it, or find a Deathrite Shaman and then use Lilianna to discard a land.
Something to also keep in mind here is one can assume that Reid has brought in the blue Elemental Blast. We have not seen it yet, but it's reasonable to guess that it's been brought in. And that is a way that he could break out of his own Blood Moon. So this Blood Moon isn't just at Alex's discretion necessarily. Reid has some options to get it off the board himself.
And he's just going to continue, I believe, scrying. He might Fate Seal with it. I always like that when you use the term, he's going to Fate Seal himself. I'm like, boy, I wonder. Also known as scrying.
Also known as scrying.
Yes, he's going to scry 1 to the bottom. Takes a look with Divining Top and passes back. Remember, the Jace ultimate is at 12. So that is, he is still 3 pluses away. His Jace ultimate actually will happen. It is on the wrong side of the race with a second Lilianna ultimate.
But that doesn't necessarily matter. If Alex is locked outright by the Blood Moon, then even a split of Jace versus Reid can take Jace and
lose everything and just win.
It's risky because then you start worrying about all sorts of cards, but
yeah, and to do this, Alex has to discard cards in his own hand to build up Lilianna, so he won't have many turns after a Jace ultimate. But even bigger here, Reid found one of his Vendilion clicks.
And with Alex at 2 from all of the Sylvan Library action, this is just going to be a lethal attack.
Yeah, he's out of cards. So it's just lethal. And there you have it. Okay, Reid Duke takes game number 2. One of the stranger games.
That was a strange game, but very impressively navigated by Reid. Looked like the Blood Moon was causing as much harm to Reid as it was to Alex, but Reid was able to couple together enough basic lands. Alex was pretty aggressively Sylvan Library and trying to find either a basic swamp or something proactive to do, and Reid beat him to the punch.
Yeah, and it turns out that Blood Moon, though it hurt Reid a lot in that game, it just eventually hurt Alex more. He did have 3 Bloodbraid Elves that he cast through the Blood Moon, and finding a Lilianna off the first one was great. But I think after that point, he needed some of those Bloodbraid Elves to cascade into a creature, or maybe to hold back some of the Bloodbraid Elves. You know, Reid had a really timely Terminus that got all of Alex's creatures as opposed to most of Alex's creatures. He just lost his clock, and despite having a great Lilianna ultimate, gave Reid a lot of time, and time is what Miracles is always looking for.
Even with Reid not being able to shovel his deck, his fetch lands being shot down, those Divining Tops still did plenty of work, especially once Jace came into play and was able to start Fate Sealing himself and getting fresh looks at things.
They did plenty of activations. At some point, for a while there, they weren't doing too much other than getting activated a bunch. But you're right, once he finally found his out, having 3 tops in play meant that he just got to streamline and play everything right then.
It's interesting. You wouldn't expect the Vendilion Click. It's a fine card to bring in, but against a deck with, Lightning Bolt, Abrupt Decay, Punishing Fire, Lilianna the Veil, you wouldn't necessarily anticipate playing a big role in the matchup, but the end of the second game that we came into and now this, it was the last piece of the puzzle to deal lethal.
Yeah, now looking at Finchler's board, if he didn't have Croson Grip in before, I have to think he has it in now. He sees both Rest in Peace and Blood Moon out of Reid Duke.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Not to mention Divining Top. This card's got to be in the deck.
To me, there's no question that Croson Grip was in his deck somewhere. What I'm curious about was if the Golgari Charms were in. And now,
right. And now they might be.
If they weren't in before, I'm pretty sure they're in now.
It's hard. You're just playing a 2-mana spell that blows up an enchantment, nothing else. And you already have Abrupt Decays for that purpose. So you run the risk of having lots of answers for cards that aren't there when you board in Golgari Charms. But it just may be important enough that you do it anyway.
You can only dilute so much of your pressure. And we're already assuming that there's all these discard spells in the deck. The Hymn to Thorax, the Thoughtseizes, the Duresses that have come in, the 2 Red Blasts we saw. It's hard to dilute your deck pressure-wise that much.
For those of you joining us recently, we are in the quarterfinals here at the Invitational. This is the last outstanding match. It is between Reid Duke and Alex Finchler. Reid, the 8 seed, the only player at X&4 to sneak into the top 8. He is facing against the overall 1 seed, Alex Finchler, in a Miracles versus Punishing Jund matchup. The winner will go on to face Peter Ingram, who's playing Bug Delver, who still has yet to lose a match in Legacy on the weekend.
And there's a pretty big discrepancy with Bug Delver and these 2 potential matchups. I think against Reid, he's got a comfortable advantage, and against Punishing Jund, he's definitely behind.
Absolutely. Punishing Jund. If Alex can make it out of this match, he actually has a great top 8 ahead of him. It's 2 Bug Delvers and a blue-green Infect. All of those actually seem like matchups that Finchler can win. He has enough removal. But down 2 games to 1 and on a mulligan to 6, things are going to be hard for Finchler to get to that point.
Reid still looking like he's deliberating, whether or not he wants to take a mulligan here.
We'll see here. My guess is he's keeping.
Yeah,
and he will.
Finally decides.
So Finchler down to 6 here. Not the most punishing matchup for mulligans. There's a lot of time on both sides.
Particularly with the cards that Reid has boarded in, the Blood Moons, the Rest in Peace. It's not really a raw card count matchup. It's more, can you beat what's going on the table?
Yeah, an extra card gives you always a slight better chance of having the answer, but if you don't have the answer, it doesn't really... If you saw there, it didn't matter how many cards Alex had. He was under Blood Moon. All right, game 4 underway. Alex Finchler, turn 1 Deathrite on the play. It's going to be pretty good. You see Reid. Let's take a look at the hand. We have a Terminus. We have a Counterspell. We have some lands. It's possible that this Deathrite may just get to do its thing here. There's also a Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Though Alex would know turn 1 fetch land, I think Reid is also going to be loath to sacrifice any of these fetch lands here. So this Deathrite may not be worth very much if Alex doesn't find a fetch land and Reid's not willing to cooperate.
Verdant Catacombs at the front of Alex's hand, so he's going to have a fetch. He also has a Dark Confidant here. Not bad. Reid does have a Terminus in his hand. I'm not sure if he has a Brainstorm, and we'll just go ahead and take a look. Make sure the coast is clear.
Yeah.
And I think this may be why Reid was a little hesitant to keep this hand. It seems pretty slow. Like some of these early drop creatures like Dark Confidant can really do a number on Miracles if he just lets Finchler sit with one and play.
Yeah.
Is he debating forcing here or
perhaps brainstorming?
Brainstorming. If you brainstorm here, do you put the Terminus on top just in case?
I think you may put it second from the top. You're definitely hiding it. But
Sure. Tundra was the find. Lets him cast both Brainstorm and Terminus. Just good here. Land-wise, there are 3 Wastelands in the Jund deck, not the full set, but Reid has to be somewhat aware that he has to play around the fact that he can get wasted.
So if he doesn't have another white source in hand, he may put the Terminus on top now because he knows he's not getting wastelanded this turn, but he may get wastelanded next turn.
Yeah, you see, Finchler decided to play that land before making the Thoughtseize so that he was not susceptible to Spell Pierce.
Yeah. If Reid has a second white source, I think he may put it down 1 to give Alex more of an opportunity to add to the board.
Here's a question. Do you think, based on last match, does Finchler even does he have his Punishing Fires still in the deck?
I don't think so.
All right. We're going to look at what Reid does. After hiding, Reid has 2 more lands, a Mountain and a Caracas.
It's a really strong hand,
Yeah.
too, so not that confidence-inspiring if you're Alex.
He has a Vendilion Click, a Jace, a Rest in Peace. That's going to be pretty good against the Deathrite. Brainstorm, and a Blood Moon. So he has both halves of the enchantment 1-2 punch again. And remember, Reid hid cards here.
Yeah.
And now you'd think you'd have to take, well, who knows? I mean, Rest in Peace and hope to draw more discard, maybe.
There's no good option here.
What Reid doesn't have is removal. And we know that Reid has a Terminus on top, but Alex doesn't. What I would think is, all right, let's take, Rest in Peace is more or less a kill spell for Deathrite. Maybe we have to take that. But either way, this is tough.
It's a mess. And Reid hid 2 cards. You know?
Right. He goes for Jace the Mind Sculptor. I think if you're going to have to plow your way through a bunch of answers, it may be best to just take the deck's raw card advantage.
If you know the game's going to be going on for a very long time.
Yeah. Take away his ability to draw extra cards. Alex is going to use his Deathrite to cast Dark Confidant, and Reid draws for a turn. Do not believe it's the Terminus yet. That means the next card down is Terminus.
Yeah, he said it 2 away, I believe.
Plays Caracas for the turn, and Sensei's Divining Top was the other card he hid. What a hand, huh? The 2 cards. So what were the 2 even better things that he hid? Those would be Top and Terminus. And Abrupt Decay is the flip for Alex. He's going to get to draw that one for free. Get a bad lands for the turn. Does have another Dark Confidant in hand.
Abrupt Decay also not shabby here as an answer to Rest in Peace.
Yeah, Rest in Peace and Blood Moon. We know both those are in Reid's hand. Finchler may have to leave up black-green in case Reid goes for a Blood Moon. Finchler's going to have the Abrupt Decay. Yes, and have to float the mana in response to the Blood Moon, let it resolve, and immediately Abrupt Decay it.
Right.
So 2 of his mana is kind of spoken for. And he may, he also has to worry about Swords to Plowshares on his Deathrite. There's a lot of things he needs to be aware of. And he's going to go for, I wonder, it looks like he might go for another Dark Confidant. That's a greedy play. Not necessarily wrong. We know about the Terminus, but he doesn't. As far as Alex knows, there isn't one. It'd be a really punishing play if Reid doesn't have Terminus.
And you know that Reid hit a Divining Top, so it's not necessarily, there was an argument for putting Terminus on top straight away if that was inside the Brainstorm.
Right. Reid spins the top on end step. We know what's about to happen. Finchler hoping to dodge it, but he's not going to.
Yeah, I don't think Reid's going to get much more value out of this, so it seems like a good spot.
And a rough spot. And there's also a little bit of a mistap here for Alex. He probably wanted to cast the Dark Confidant off Deathrite Shaman so that he could leave up Abrupt Decay here. Didn't do that, so then he has to tap out. This does give Reid a window to cast Rest in Peace and not have it Abrupt Decayed, and that's what's going to happen. And now it's Rest in Peace, not Blood Moon, so maybe it doesn't matter that much.
Well, now it matters quite a bit, I think, because we're probably going to see, I guess Reid's still holding off, not willing to Blood Moon just yet.
Reid's just got to feel really confident with everything that's going on here.
Yeah.
Lilianna is the draw for Finchler. I imagine this is fine as well. Remember, Reid has a Vendilion Click in hand, so he can actually just attack down Lilianna if he needs to. It would at least draw the Abrupt Decay. Lilianna will plus. In response, Reid's going to spin his top. And then just choose to discard, most likely.
And he may be happy to just kind of attrition out some of the last cards in Alex's hand anyway.
And we know about Vendilion Click and Blood Moon, and I believe Brainstorm all left in his hand.
Another not confidence-inspiring moment here for Alex is when your opponent discards Brainstorm to a Lilianna plus.
Yeah, it's great. Alex's hand was Tarmogoyf and Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay can take care of the Vendilion Click, but after that, Tarmogoyf kept in check by Rest in Peace. There is one basic in play for Finchler. He has his basic Swamp, but Reid can keep him off of green mana for the foreseeable future here. And I think he will. I mean, he can, both of Alex's cards are green.
But he may not be in any rush to Blood Moon here. It does do some damage to Reid's board. I mean, he could go fetch for planes, I suppose, but he's in the spot, again, where he can't cast his double white spells. And the Blood Moon really isn't prohibitive for Alex, given what his lands are like now, with the exception of casting Lilianna the Veil, because he'll be on Mountain Swamp instead of...
So what you're basically saying is if Reid's far enough ahead that he doesn't need to Blood Moon his opponent.
He still might, because it does cut off draws down the line. Like now he needs to draw a forest to unlock anything in his hand.
Yeah.
Reid's also down to one card that he's going to have to discard anyway, so if he thinks the Blood Moon is acceptable, he'll probably just cast it regardless.
Yeah. Basic Forest is, as the other two basics are, a one of in Alex's deck. So if Blood Moon happens here, it's going to be around for a while. Basic Island in the top three, so Reid's not, yeah, just going to play the second enchantment. So it's that 1-2 punch of Rest in Peace and Blood Moon. Once again, we saw this game 3. And Alex, with not much to do, he's just going to plus Lilianna. But unlike last time where this Lilianna took away the game, took away a lot of Reid's cards, Reid has the Vendilion Click to punch Lilianna down. And that's a pretty big difference. Reid draws Basic Island, gets Lilianna, and the lock has been assembled. Finchler is going to have to draw the one of Basic Forest if he wants to keep playing.
And even at that point, if he Abrupt Decays the Blood Moon, let's say, well now Reid has Click plus Karakas online, so his Click's basically untouchable for the rest of the game.
Yeah, Finchler did draw Red Elemental Blast for the Vendilion Click. It takes away Reid's clock. Reid spins top in response, and yeah, that's fine. So a game that looked like it might be down to a 4-turn clock is now, well, down to an even quicker one, and treat the Angels.
Yeah.
And that'll do it. Reid Duke, 3-1, defeats Alex Finchler. He drops game 1, but thanks to a strong sideboard plan, takes all the post-board games. He is on to your top 4, where he will face Bug Delver in the deck of Peter Ingram.
I'm curious to see how Alex sideboarded, because there's a lot of cards to bring in, and it didn't seem, there's a lot of B- quality cards in this deck. And